Righto, so we're up in Early Beach and I've just been shopping for the alcohol. Tracy and Janet have sent us for the booze. And this is John, everyone. Say g'day, John.
G'day, everyone.
Yeah, this bastard. Look what he's done. Look at the grog. Holy God, I'm not much of a drinker. I don't know who is, but I think it might be him.
I've got a drink to spend 12 days with him on a cat.
12 days on a cat with this. Can you imagine it? Look at the booze. Frickin' hell, there's a lot of grog there. Let's get it loaded, mate. So here we are, guys, on the Whitsundays. We're camped here or anchored up at Sid Harbour, absolutely beautiful anchorage, and I'm here with John and Tracy and Janet. Obviously, we've been up here for how many nights now? 11?
11 nights tonight.
11 nights. Yeah. It's been a really wonderful trip. Great for Janet and I to learn a lot about sailing, particularly in a catamaran similar to what we're building. And you've seen an intro there of who John is. John's actually a good old mate of mine, and we've got Tracy, John's wife, here, and John and I used to work together in a dive shop as dive instructors back in 1991, 92, 93.
Yeah.
So yeah, 29 years ago, and we've sort of kept in contact over all these years, and here we are. But what I thought I'd do tonight is introduce you to what John's all about. John's got a few very interesting characteristics.
Is that what you call it? Oh dear.
And he's also done quite a lot in the sailing fraternity, and that's one of the reasons why Janet and I sort of latched on to him, so we could just suck his brain for a few weeks. And John and Tracy have done quite a lot of charters, but interestingly enough, John had 3 dreams when he was a young bloke, didn't you, mate?
Yes, I
What
certainly
were they?
did.
Light us as to what they were.
Well, one was to come and live in Oz. One was to dive with great white sharks.
Yep.
And another was to sail around the world.
Right.
And there was another one.
What was the other one?
To fly a Spitfire.
To fly a Spitfire.
I know my husband.
Yeah. Tracy's,
so there was actually 4.
Tracy's Feb. We'll just tick that off the
Thank
off
God,
the
Mr.
list
and
here.
Mrs. Works.
There was actually 4, not 3, dear.
So I've got my notes here. I've been doing a bit of research on John over the last couple of days, and yeah, some really interesting stuff. But he's now achieved his 4 dreams, and yeah, interestingly enough, the sailing around the world is what I'd like to sort of have a bit of a chat with him about. But so John's was originally a professional fisherman, and then ended up in Australia here as a dive instructor, and worked with me. And it was a nightmare. It was a funny couple of years, wasn't it, mate? It was. We
had a good time. We certainly did.
We worked in a small dive store in Sydney, and yeah, we had a great time. And hence, that's why we're here 29 years later, having a rekindle of that relationship. And yeah, after 12 days, I'm not really sure I want to keep on with it. So basically, as a dive instructor, you worked at Dive 2000, and then one of those dreams to sail around the world, I think you sort of wanted to buy your own boat, didn't you, at one stage?
Yeah. I left work in 2011, and I started to look to get a boat to sail single-handedly around the world.
Yeah.
And Trace wasn't really up for that. And one day we were going down Sydney Harbour in our boat, just going down to the fish markets, and we saw a boat called Qingdao, which is one of the Clipper Around the World yacht race boats, going down past the Opera House and Bridge. And we followed it down, and it looked really spectacular. And Tracy said, "What do you think about that?"
Sure.
So
you stalked them.
So basically, went online,
Yeah.
looked up what Clipper Around the World was all about. Yeah. Got a bit of information from a guy called Dave Cosworth. He told me to go down to the CYC the following day because there was an open boat to look at the Clippers because they were in Sydney, obviously, and got on the boats, saw how fantastic they were, and basically signed up there and then for the 15-16 round the world race.
So they're like a 60, 70 footer, aren't they?
70 foot, yeah.
They're like a maxi, or are they?
Yeah, 70 foot maxis. Yeah, there's 11 of them, and they race around the world.
So they're all identical?
Identical boats,
Okay.
yeah.
So they're not like, they're comfortable like this, I'd imagine.
They're comfortable like this.
Yeah. As he sits in a lounge chair. Actually, he's been laying on the Chase lounge there like for the whole week.
The comfort isn't quite as good as what we have on this boat, but it's good enough for racing around the world.
Cool.
You know, with 20 people on board.
So what year was that? When was that?
I raced from London to London 2015.
Okay.
Basically, it was end of August 2015 to end of July 2016.
And what sort of training do you have to do to get onto something like that? Like a around the world, I guess it's a corporate thing, isn't it, Clipper? Or is it a training exercise?
Yes, it's corporate. You've got to do 4 weeks of solid training, you know, level 1, 2, 3 and 4, and they build your skills up over those 4 weeks of going out to sea, going out at night, you know, doing watch systems, mother watches, learning all the safety drills, because Clipper are very big in safety drills.
Yeah.
And they'll, every time you go out, you'll have a life jacket on.
Yeah.
You'll be told how to operate these life jackets and man overboard drills, clipping on. So it really takes you back to the basics.
Yeah.
All the way through.
Of which we've done a man overboard this week, didn't we?
Yes, we did.
He made us do one, and he threw me overboard. He found a buoy on a beach, called it me, and threw it overboard, and made Janet rescue me. I think that was a really good idea.
And we got you back first time.
First time. Yes, full sails, you the works.
So all that Clipper training came into...
But the one thing about Clipper is you don't need any sailing experience.
No, that's right.
That's interesting.
Yeah. So you can't, you know, anyone can sign up for Clipper as long as they pass the medical and that, and they pass the 4 weeks of training.
Yeah.
Then you can sign up to do around the world like I did, or a leg or two, or whatever suits you.
Yeah, right. So is it a broad spectrum of people?
From all walks of life.
Yeah.
I was on board with students to heart surgeons, to kickboxers, to hairdressers, everything. Pardon?
Is that why you got so bruised?
Yes, it was.
Had a bit of a run in the head. Classic.
Yeah. But it was a fantastic experience.
Yeah, okay.
And I'd been sailing and boating since I was knee-eider or grasshopper.
Yeah.
And after being on a boat for 11 months, going in like big seas for long periods of time, it made me a much better sailor.
Yeah, okay. And you've been sailing before that. I know you've been on boats, dive boats, but when did your sailing start to lead you to this?
Basically, when I first started sailing was at a place called the YAC, the Youth Activity Centre in Weymouth in Dorset.
Yep.
Back in 1977.
Yep.
But it wasn't until I really come to Sydney that I started to sail a lot more.
Yeah.
Before that, it was just on the fishing boats, taking the fishing boat out and you know, going up and down the English Channel and things like that.
And of course, it was all the dive boat experience that we had, sort of running dive courses together, etc. So there's a lot of that. But then you worked at Royal Prince Alfred Yacht Club, didn't you, in Sydney?
Yep, in Newport.
Newport.
I started work there in 2000, and I was the maintenance supervisor for the whole yacht club.
Yeah.
That's the marinas, the clubhouses, the car parks.
Yeah.
But obviously, I got in well with the sailors there. Got a lot of sailing friends, which I still do now. You know, I go down at least once a month to go sailing with the guys.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
So, and the common thread between John and I is we have wives that are just amazing.
Well, thank you.
They've entertained our dreams. Janet's still entertaining my dreams. But I don't know about Tracy. I think it's wearing a bit thin, isn't it, Trace? Or not?
What, John? Yeah.
John is wearing thin, yeah, we know that. But is his dreams wearing thin? I think we've achieved the 4, but he's got more, hasn't he?
No, we had 4 and that was it.
No, 4's it, was it?
We delivered on the 4.
Okay.
And now it's time to just enjoy retirement.
Yeah. These guys have sort of convinced Janet and I that's the way to go. And Janet's sitting over here in the corner hiding away here with a big smile on her face. She's worried about me wanting to retire before I finish my project, I think.
That's not going to happen.
Yes, I know that. Very interesting. So as far as the sailing, you became what they call a qualified sailor for the Clipper.
I was watch leader on Great Britain for the 15-16 race.
Yeah.
And then I went back on the 17-18 race as a watch leader and what they called an
additional qualified person.
AQP, an additional qualified person, on the leg from Fremantle, Sydney, Hobart, and then up to here to Early Beach.
Excellent. And you're still involved with Clipper now, sort of in 2020.
Yeah.
Sort of still caretaking a couple of the training boats
Yeah,
down
I've got
in Newcastle.
2 of the 68-footers training boats in Newcastle looking after.
Yeah, cool.
And
he goes and cleans the bilges out and cleans the heads.
That's as glamorous as it gets
it's
these
about
days.
as glamorous as it gets. Yeah, interesting stuff. So that work in the yacht club, obviously in Sydney, is giving you access to sailing and racing in Sydney Harbour. And now you're also bludging off people up in the North Coast, aren't you? Looking for people to sail with up there.
Oh, I sail in Port Stephens now as well.
Exactly. He's got friends with boats.
They've got to have a boat or they're not my friend.
That's right.
You're a potential.
Thank you.
You're a potential friend at the
You've
moment.
had a lot of potential for
I
many
think this is a
years.
reciprocal arrangement that we have here. It's very interesting. So it's obviously sailing for fun, sailing for ambition. And then there's obviously the other half of the story, which is Tracy tolerating the sailing ambitions. But you seem to love it.
Sailing widow.
Yeah, after this week, though, I'd have to say you're just as much a sailor as John.
No,
You're pretty comfy out here, I'd have to say.
because John does all the work.
Yeah. So,
I just feed everybody.
As per usual.
Trace likes to find the sunny spot on the boat and then gives very firm directions as to how the boat should tack.
Well, no, it's
to find the sun.
navigation directions.
I'm in
Just-
the shade,
just
Ross.
a solar panel.
Where's the sun?
It's like Tracy Charles solar panel. You're worth about
I
10
think so.
million amps, I
think
reckon.
so, yeah.
Interesting stuff.
I'm high wattage.
High maintenance.
Oh, so low maintenance. You
You
would
are
not
low
believe.
maintenance, you are.
I am.
So sailing around the world, why would you want to sail around the world? Why on earth? I mean, I've spoken to other people who have sailed
Exactly,
around the world.
why?
But what is this drive that gets people to want to do that?
I don't know. As a young kid, I was brought up on boats. And when I was fishing in the English Channel, I saw actually Fisher and Paykel and Steinlager too, which were doing the Whitbread round the world yacht race.
Yeah.
And I just really, thought that would be a fantastic thing to do.
Yeah.
And luckily enough, many years later, I was able to get the chance.
Yeah.
And actually now I sail on a boat as well called Eve, which is a Swan 65. We did Hobart last year, and we did Hamilton Island and Early last year as well.
Yeah.
And hopefully this year we may do Hobart again if it's on.
Yeah.
And that was actually one of the boats that did the Whitbread round the world yacht race,
okay, so
or the
it's
type
actually
of boat that did the Whitbread round the world yacht race.
Yeah, so interestingly enough, because we're up here this week, Hamilton Island Race Week was supposed to be this week, wasn't it? Or last week?
Last week.
And there's another one at Magnetic Island in Townsville, about 300 kilometres north of here. They've all been laid off because of COVID, haven't they?
Yeah, that's right.
So so we extended this trip by another 4 days because John wasn't required up there because the boat was stuck in New Zealand, wasn't it?
That's
It's
right.
now made its way back to Sydney solo, I think, with a so
because
it's pretty.
obviously there wasn't no point coming up here because
Yeah.
all the races have been cancelled.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
First
Had a
time
big
in
decision.
37 years, apparently.
Yeah, amazing. Absolutely amazing. So the Clipper year, is it a year? How long does it take to do the leg? 'Cause-
well, basically the 4 weeks of training and the 11 months is a total year.
Yeah, right.
So although you can spread the training over a year, you might do one training on say March, another training in October, and another one in January.
Yeah.
You can spread that out.
Yeah.
But obviously the race starts and stops at a certain time.
Yeah.
And if you're doing around the world like I did, it is basically 11 months.
Yeah, okay.
But, you can get people coming on and doing legs, and that might be just a month or 2 weeks, all depends on which leg they choose to do.
Yeah, so they could actually sign up for certain legs, obviously London to, where's London to?
Well, this the race I did was London to Rio.
Okay, so that's a substantial leg.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
a pretty,
that was nearly 4 weeks at sea.
So it's an Atlantic crossing, so it's a
Oh yes.
it's a baptism of fire for the new.
Yeah.
For the
It's
new
Atlantic. It's an equator crossing as well.
Yeah, okay.
So you go through the doldrums
Yeah.
and go down into Rio,
Yeah,
which is an
interesting
experience in its. on its
yeah,
own.
absolutely. And what happens to the support crew? Like, what is someone like Tracy? What's your job in all this? Or how do you handle being away from him, or vice versa? What's your agenda during? Are you like out with the girls every night having a great time?
No, we're planning the trips in between
Oh,
the
okay.
sailing. So when the boys are at sea,
Yep.
the supporters, and especially the wives, kind of get together, and then we plan our own trips in between. And of course, we do flying in 5-star accommodation, not roughing it on some
Oh.
smelly boat for 4
Did
weeks.
you just sign me up for Clipper, Janet?
Yeah.
It sounds
By
like
the
a...
way, yours starts in 22, 23.
Oh, I'm already signed up. Yeah, Janet wants to get me out there. Yeah. She can have 5-star
like a really
trips
good
around the world.
idea.
Sounds like a great gig. And
Yeah,
you met
yeah.
them in every port, didn't you?
Yeah,
Effectively?
yeah. So we did our own, some of us did our own round the world
Flying.
cruise.
Yeah, awesome.
Cruise. But the thing you become fixated on is the race viewer. So it's basically a tracker. So all the boats have a certain colour.
Yeah.
And Great Britain was the dark blue boat.
Yeah,
So you basically in the morning log on, make sure they're still going in the right direction.
Yeah.
Okay, things are okay. Because when John did it, the communications weren't too great.
Not like they are now, I guess.
No, it's all emails, and
Okay.
you can do sat phones now. But
Yeah,
in
yeah.
1516, it's still
Yeah.
intermittent. But so when they were at sea, we were trying to not worry, which is
Yeah.
impossible.
Yeah. Is that a big worry when
Yeah.
you're sailing around the world? I imagine it would be.
Yeah, I mean, obviously you don't think about it, and it was the time when they kind of sailed away from the Thames, and all the support boats were behind them, and it does hit you. It's like, oh,
Yeah.
crikey!
He's gone.
And also because I think knowing what the sea can do, and
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
can be dangerous.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
So there's always that subconscious thing
Yeah.
of, are they okay? Because you just don't know.
Absolutely. Well, anything can happen out there, can't it?
Yeah,
I mean,
sometimes that's worse. For
Yeah.
the guys that are on the boat, obviously it's pretty
Mm,
so the conditions can be quite extreme
yeah.
on some legs, but for the supporters, you just the saying is, no news is good news.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
Right.
probably a good thing if you don't hear.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. Because even today, classic example of this with the safety that Tracy's talking about, we were coming through a passage and had 6 humpback whales frolicking in the distance
Yeah.
and a yacht sort of in the distance. It was like a 35-footer or so?
I think it was a 38-foot Bavaria.
Yeah, 38-foot Bavaria with its sails down at the time, weren't they?
Yeah.
And this is a classic example of how quickly something can go wrong. And John was holding position, we were watching the whales, and all of a sudden we saw their jib just flapping, and they headed straight over and essentially almost grounded, didn't they? We were very, very close to seeing them roll over on the rocks.
Yeah.
And luckily they had the foresight to put the anchor out. But how quickly did that happen? I mean, it was just like that.
just in minutes.
Yep.
Things can go wrong. And they were very close to land in a relatively safe area, but the wind was up.
Yeah.
And they had a problem with their sail. They couldn't get their engine going,
Yeah.
and they nearly drifted onto the rocks.
Yeah, it was a pretty close
So-
call. It was like 50 feet from the rocks, weren't they?
Yeah.
Probably 100 feet from the rocks. And luckily they had one of John's friends, Wayne, who's also a clipper.
Yep, he's
Sailor.
a clipper instructor, and he was on the radio to them, telling them what to do. And luckily, they got the anchor over,
Yeah.
and I was able to get over there and help out as well.
Yep, so I've got footage of all this happening. John didn't know we were filming it, but yeah, great content for YouTube. Didn't see the accident, unfortunately, but we did, but we can sort of explain that, and I'll do that in a subsequent episode. But Wayne was on the phone to them, and John jumped on board and picked up the phone, didn't you? And they were quite distressed, the people on the boat, weren't
Yeah, they were, I expect they were in their early 70s,
Yeah, okay.
and very obviously stressed out because they were drifting onto rocks.
Yeah.
And luckily we got there in time, the anchor bit, and we were able to sort them out,
Yeah.
tow them to
Yeah.
Hamilton Island,
Yeah.
and all was well in the end.
Yeah, so in a matter of 2 minutes, it went from being a relatively benign situation to
to chaos.
Yeah, it could have been
Absolute chaos.
extreme in the end, because we had a big tender came over and ended up towing John's tender, and they lost their tender as well, didn't they?
They
So
lost their tender.
It was a classic red flag situation, wasn't it?
Yeah, everything went wrong for them.
Yeah.
But all's well in the end.
Yeah,
We got
no,
over
it was good, and Janet and Tracy and I just sort of manoeuvred this boat around in the wind and waited for John to come back. We had a pretty nice
Waiting
time.
for Superman John.
Wait for Superman to
Stuff.
come back. He saved the boat, saved the day. There is no doubt about it. And I guess that safety at sea. I mean, even what we've learned over the last couple of weeks, just about wind, current, tide. For Janet and myself, it's been fantastic, hasn't it? I mean, we've done a lot of
it's
sailing on these cats over the last couple of years, a lot of sailing, but not intensive. And chartering a boat like this with someone like John and Tracy who do it as a habit, it's a habit for them. I think it's just like a yearly thing for them. I think, what's the 15th charter
15th
or something?
charter,
Yeah, so I think they're egging on buying a boat, and that possibly could happen soon, but it is their lifestyle. And for us to just sort of join into that and get that experience has been amazing. But, you know, that safety is so critical. One thing I have learned is everything, the anchor, everything's safety orientated. The sails, you know, don't go up in front when it's too rough, etc. And I know in your Clipper experience, John, on the September 15th, 2015, I'm told, there was quite a nasty incident occurred. I've been doing my research. I've been reading blogs and things like that. But yeah, tell us what happened, John, because that's a really interesting one.
Well, basically, we were about halfway between America and Africa, 200 miles above the equator. So on our way, you know, to Rio. And the watch in front of ours, or previous watch to ours, had lost a halyard up the mast. And as in they pulled it to the top and it was stuck up there.
Not attached to anything.
Not attached to anything. And we needed it down because we were obviously racing. And it was a bit windy when I got up on deck at 6 o'clock in the morning, because we were doing 6-hour watches through the day and then 4-hour watches through the night. So I got up at, I think I got up on deck at 12 o'clock that day with my crew. And it was still a bit choppy up on deck, so we decided not to get the halyard back. And it wasn't until the last, most probably half an hour of my watch, which was coming into about 5:30 in the afternoon, that we thought, yep, it's cool now, everything's looking all right, the sea's right down, it's safe enough to go up. So I put the safety gear on, the helmet, 2 harnesses, 2 ropes, 2 halyards. And
didn't you call it the seat of power or something?
The pants of power.
The pants of power.
Pants of power.
Is it a bosun's chair?
Yeah.
No, it's not a bosun's chair. It's like a climbing harness.
Yeah, okay.
Anyway, I put the climbing harness on, and Richard, the cameraman, said, "John, could you put the GoPro on the helmet?"
So there is footage of this.
Film it from, you know, as I went up. He's got his huge camera, so he said he would film it from the bottom. And basically, I went up the mast and
how tall is the mast?
Nearly 100 foot.
Yeah, it's a
100
monster.
foot high.
Monster.
And got to just above the top spreaders, which is about 15 foot from the top of the mast where the halyard was, you know, stuck. And all of a sudden, a set of waves come through, and it just flicked me off the mast with 15 foot of line. So I was going around and around and hitting spreaders and masts and sails and everything, just like a conker, conker would hit things. And I was flying through the air, and I was just trying to stop myself in any way I could. And I saw the shrouds coming towards me, and I put my arms out like this to try and catch the shrouds. And I'm flying through like Superman, and the shroud comes down, slides down my arm here, and cuts me under my armpit like a cheese grater.
Oh, wow.
I'm still flying along at the rate of knots this way, then my arm goes back and snaps on the mast.
So you broke your wrist, your arm.
So I broke my arm here and sliced it open here.
Wow.
And so now I'm at the top of the mast.
Crying like a girl, probably.
And just getting beaten by the seas. Anyway, after a few minutes, I was able to hang on.
Yeah.
When I first was flying through and I went to grab the shroud, I went like this, but my arm was out here. And it's like, oh dear, that's not very very good. And basically after a while I was able to wrap myself around the shrouds like a snake. And it was about nearly an hour from leaving the deck to getting back to the deck. So,
and what did you lose when you're up there that was so important to you?
My shoes. I was lost some brand new shoes.
What were they? Come on, tell us what they were.
Henry Lloyd.
Henry Lloyd,
deck shoes.
What it was, I was just trying to wedge my feet in between the mast and the mainsail just to try and hold myself in there. And I was getting flicked off, and my shoes were just getting thrown, overboard. Yeah. And actually, one went overboard and one landed on the deck. Yeah. And they kept it, and we actually put it to the back gantry and put the date on it, put ouch on it, and that was
memento.
A memento.
Classic. That's classic. But, so they got you to the deck.
Yeah, we got down to the deck. Cut my t-shirt, my brand new t-shirt off, which was very disappointing, and saw that I had a huge gash under my arm here, and obviously the the wrist was broken. There's a great big scar down there with plates in it. I can
see that.
And then we had to go down below decks. They had tidied up down in the kitchen, the galley area, and started to work on me, sewing me up. So
they sewed you up with no anaesthetic or anything, didn't they?
Not at the beginning, and then they stuck something in my bum, and that made it all better.
Probably enjoyed that a bit, I guess.
But I was, the arm was the most painful.
Yeah.
This was, I couldn't see it, and although it was a huge tear, I couldn't see it, so that was a good thing. But it was just, just all blood there.
Yeah.
But the arm, I just didn't want anyone touching my broken arm, because that was the most pain. And once they had done stitching me up and made sure that there was no arteries gone, I actually held my arm down like that and stretched it out.
Yeah, so you relocated
to try and get the bones back to in line. Yeah. And then we put a splint on it and taped it up. And that was it basically for 10 days until we got to Rio.
The practice.
Yeah. Again, with Clipper, as soon as I had the accident up on the mast, our guys down in the nav station were in touch with Praxis, which is the medical guys in Canada, isn't it? Yeah. On the sat phone. Yeah. And they were saying, when I was still at the mast, so we had doctors talking to the crew, what was happening when I was still at the mast. Yeah. And they were saying, don't worry about the broken arm.
Yeah. That's all about bleeding. It's your ABC.
Yeah. Check that bleeding. Get him down. Check that bleeding.
Yeah, interesting.
And fair enough, we got down, stitched me up, and then started the race again.
So I guess the problem is a simple thing like going to get a halyard, which everyone would think, I'll just go up the halyard, but you're 100 feet up, boat moving, yawing around, monohull, because it's worse than a catamaran, isn't it? I mean,
absolutely.
Yawing around, and it's turned into a disaster. But the problem with that, I guess, how far were you at? 10 days out from Rio?
10 days out from Rio.
Yeah, so you're a long way out.
I still had 10 days to get to Rio before I could get to a hospital.
Yeah.
And then when we got to the hospital, they did my arm first, put plates in my arm, and then the next day, or day off, then the next day after that, they opened me up again to check, check my nerves and everything.
What was the prognosis there?
Well, luckily, there was only bad bruising, really bad bruising. But my arm was like my leg. All out here was swollen. Still black and swollen. Yeah. And the doctor said if it would have been about 2 millimeters or 3 millimeters more.
Yeah, so it's a lucky call.
That would have been it.
And I guess when that happens, what happens to someone like? Did you see on the plotter that it was going backwards or around in circles or slowed up? Were you that sort of in tune with their movements at that stage? Or
unfortunately, I was in Vancouver at the time, waiting to go onto the Rocky Railroad.
Right.
So it was
so he wrecked
3
those
o'clock.
plans.
No.
Oh, did he? Oh, no. He still weren't. Oh, what a two.
Yeah, Daisy, all right. It's fine. No, so what it is so they were trying to call me on my Australian mobile, but of course when I travel I have a international mobile. Yeah. But they finally got a message. I got a phone call from John, and he just sort of said, I've just had a bit of an accident. And I said, well, you assume you're okay. He said, I just broke my wrist and just got a bit of a cut. Because they wanted to downplay it, and obviously it was more about the fact that Clipper always have to make people aware, just in case the boat had to turn around if there was an infection.
Yeah.
But basically, I just thought he was, just had a broken wrist.
Yeah.
Idiot.
So they got
kind
in
of thing.
contact with you almost immediately. It
Yeah,
didn't
yeah,
sort
they
of
go
get
through
out there in
emergency.
social media.
No,
like
they
it would do these days. It'd be
No,
out
what
there.
happens is when you
got emergency
when
contact.
you
Yeah.
go on Clipper, they get emergency contact.
Yeah,
And Trace was my emergency contact, and my brother,
Yeah.
Paul.
yeah.
So between us, we found out, but they downplayed it because John said, don't want people to worry.
Yeah, fair enough.
It was only when John jumped off on the deck, and he sort of
In Rio.
and I said, "Oh, you okay?" And they said, "Oh, we got hospital ready." I went, "Yeah, okay," thinking it was just a broken wrist and wouldn't take long. And then John said, "Yeah, that was close." I went,
Yeah.
"What do you mean it was close?" He went, "Yeah." And then he started to talk about it. I was like, "Oh my
So the
God."
reality came home, and,
Yeah,
and
for
because
me,
it's been
wow.
filmed, it's pretty hard to sort of swallow, isn't it, for you?
I still can't
It's still
watch it.
hard to watch. Yeah.
I still can't watch
Well, you
it.
haven't watched it. Yeah.
I still can't watch it.
Fair enough. Too.
I have
don't think
to
I'd
close
watch
my
it.
ears and eyes.
I don't really want to watch it, but I do. Sort of like the idea of John
Getting
flying
thrashed about.
around on a mast.
Cliparoundtheworld.com.
Yeah. So, and I mean, I guess at the end of the day, these activities are built up to be adventures, and you can't take anything for granted, can you? It's an adventure,
it's
and if
an
you sign up
adventure.
for it, you're signing up for the whole
right,
box and dice, aren't you?
Absolutely.
A bit like our trip with you. It's been pretty hard this couple of weeks. The
I think
food.
one of the things that was funny was when we were talking afterwards with the skipper and the crew, and they said, "Oh, are you gonna allow John back on?" It's like, I have no say in it.
Yeah.
I said, "Trust me, John will be back on the race because this is his dream and he always wants to do it." So I think that's the thing is, shit happens.
Yeah.
And shit happens at sea
Of
often.
course it does. Yeah.
And you just got to, get on with it. And
So did you go straight back onto the boat once you healed up, or did you have a hiatus?
What I had to do was leave Rio, fly back to Australia to see my doctor and talk to him, go to the physio, and then fly back to Cape Town. I met the boats in Cape Town. And
Was
jumped
that
back
year?
on.
Same year?
Yeah, it was a...
Four
So you
weeks
missed the
later.
leg from Rio to Cape Town, yeah?
Yeah, on that bit.
okay.
So it was basically 4 weeks from accident.
But,
to jumping on again.
if you've got a dream, you've got to do it.
Yeah, you got to do it.
It's no point. I'm not a person who will sit at home with my slippers on and go, I wish.
Don't know, he's been doing it all week, hasn't he? Every night on that land.
Yeah, that was
He's been-
5 years ago, John.
Yeah, he's a bit older now. Bit
If
wiser.
you've got a dream, you've got to
you do
go and
have to
do
do
it.
it, yeah.
And like I say, I'm not a slippers and pipe person. I want to get out there and live life to the most. And
And so you did the Cape Town to Perth leg, was it? Or
it was after that, once we left Cape Town, we went to Albany.
okay.
So down into the
which is
Southern Ocean.
Southern Western Australia.
Yeah,
Yeah.
down into the Southern Ocean. And that took us about 3.5 weeks, I think.
Have you been up the mast since?
Yes,
You have?
yeah.
So you've conquered your fears?
I actually went up the mast when I got to Albany,
Albany, yeah.
but that was in dock, just checking on
okay.
all the fixtures
okay.
and
Oh, that's
fittings
good.
up there.
The doctor, our doctor, when he was writing the letter to say John's okay to do the race again, I said, we need that letter.
Yeah.
And he said, well, what have I got to write? So I told him, he said, do I write that he's not allowed up the mast? Yes, put that in. John is not allowed up the mast. And also,
That was only through Tracy saying, not mine.
John sort of sat there like, he's not allowed up the mast and he can't pull a heavy anchor.
I bet you did it.
You should have said I shouldn't be allowed to clean the heads as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
But that didn't work.
He's in there with the toothbrush. Classic. So you ended up doing that complete race
Yep.
and finishing in London, I imagine, is where it finished in the Thames.
Yeah, we
What happened in the Thames? What did Tracy...
Well, we
Yeah,
were coming up the Thames.
This is my story, your story.
Yeah, it's Tracy's story. Get off. This is more important.
We got third place in the round the world yacht race,
Fantastic. Yeah.
which is very
That is
important.
very
Which was a fantastic achievement.
Yeah.
Go on.
So the supporters fight. I think Cape Town started it. It was where we went up in a helicopter
Yeah.
to watch the start of the race, and we suddenly went, oh, we could do these things where we surprised them and turn up. So over the course of the race, we did several things, either at the start or at the end. When it was coming to London, we were speaking to the Great Britain supporters, and I said, look, we've got to do something a bit flash because we're the best supporters group. So I went online. And, of course, we're the best. So I went online and found this boat that's sort of like the Italian Riviera boats, like in Venice.
Yeah.
But it had a Union Jack flag on the wraparound.
Fantastic.
And I sort of went, oh, that'll do. So basically, unbeknown to the Great Britain team, 8 of us hired this for the day, and we were starting at 7 o'clock in the morning. We'd bought all these fancy dress Great Britain wigs, and capes, and stupid things, and we went out. And so we've got to be the first supporters boat out there, so we leave everybody else behind. So we got up at 7 o'clock in the morning, jumped on the boat, headed straight out to pass the Thames Barrier, and were the first supporters boat to,
Meet the fleet.
Brilliant. That would have been a bit emotional, I guess.
No, I'm just glad it's over.
Are you glad it was over?
So glad it was over.
That's interesting.
Yes, it was a long 11 months.
Yeah. Partying in 5-star accommodation with your girlfriend.
Work. It's really hard work.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Can I ask you what was the most amazing moment or period on
The most amazing moment.
without an injury? Oh, one of the things that sticks in your mind.
I don't know, sailing down waves in the North Pacific at 35 knots in 120 knots of wind gusts and 20 metre seas.
A 40-ton boat.
And a 40-ton boat.
Surfboard.
Like a big surfboard. Flying along, and you're at the helm, and there's only 2 of you on deck, strapped in, with harnesses on, and the others are downstairs in the galley or in their bunks, and you're scooting along in these big seas. That was fantastic.
Yeah, brilliant.
Wearing ski mask because of the.
Sometimes we had ski masks on because of the hail and snow and things,
Wow.
but not too often. That's just one. Going through the Panama Canal, like a small boat, a 70-foot boat, and you've got these big tankers and liners going beside you in the Panama Canal. That's another one. Dolphins and whales, inches away from the boat is more, down in the Southern Ocean, you've seen lovely sunsets tonight, but imagine that scooting along down swells with albatross, just feet away from you, or the mast or the sails. It's beautiful.
I think we're signing Janet up.
Yeah. I think Janet's
That's a good idea. I'll do the 5-star hotel and the trip around.
Ross will become a supporter.
Yeah, I'll be staying at the bloody Hilton every night.
So there are lots of fantastic moments.
Look, makes my legs look long.
Tracy looks another 2 foot longer.
I do. I'm 6 foot tall. Yeah, just watch it.
We should have got that. We did get that on there.
Do it? Oh, that's it.
We've just changed the camera angle. We're all looking. Tracy's looking like she's actually tall now.
That length of leg.
Trying to mix it up, make it interesting, because it's been really interesting. Because I've had the tan. Yeah, that's someone tan.
All week for the last 12 days.
Having spent 12 days with John after having spent 2 years with him 29 years ago, I think it's been interesting. He hasn't changed. He's still about 5.
Years old.
5 years old, yeah. But yeah, it's obviously a great experience, John, your Clipper experience. And you're talking about surfing down waves and all that. But did you end up doing the leg you missed? That's what I'm trying to get to. It's pretty important.
Yeah, I certainly did. I did these on the 17-18 Clipper Around the World Yacht Race. So I joined in Uruguay, and we raced across to Cape Town.
So they invited you back, or you actually pursued it?
No. I was invited back.
All right.
Yes, I was very, very lucky.
Yeah.
And I was also invited to go back and do another leg from where was it? Fremantle to Sydney Hobart again, and then up to Early Beach.
So they competed in the Sydney Hobart as well, didn't they?
Yeah, they've done about 3 or 4 Sydney Hobart.
Wow.
So I've done it twice with them.
Yeah.
And we did it in the 15, and I think about 60 yachts pulled out.
Yeah.
And all the Clipper boats just beat through it.
Yeah, because they're round the world boats.
They're round the world boats, they're strong boats, safe boats.
Yeah.
And we did very well.
Yeah, brilliant.
Didn't you even beat Wild Oats?
Rather, it's pulled out.
That's right.
Yeah, so a lot of the big maxis pulled out.
Yeah.
It was pretty extreme, wasn't it, that year? Like the wind was pretty bad.
Yeah,
So.
we had some big seas and big winds that
Big
year.
southerly buster.
So when you hear that maxis are pulling out and this thing's just ploughing along, they're obviously world ocean boats, aren't they?
Yeah, these boats
Clearly.
this is the fourth time these boats have been around the world.
Wow.
And so that tells you how strong
Yeah, they're
they
strong.
are. And when you see the seas and the winds that they go in, down in the Southern Ocean, up in the top of the North Pacific, they're tough boats.
Yeah, brilliant.
Yeah.
Check out the YouTube channel.
Yeah.
Videos.
Check out the YouTube
Yeah,
channel.
there's a YouTube channel with all of this on it. If you're interested in doing a clipper race, honestly, I've had a look at it. It's pretty serious stuff, and it looks like just one of. I think the thing that you take from it is the experience you get out of it. But there's obviously camaraderie with the other crew members, and talk about that for a minute because that's part of it, isn't it?
Oh, for me, I'm pleased that I didn't do it single-handedly around the world because going with Clipper, I've got hundreds of new friends just out of those two races.
Yeah.
We've had them at our house for barbecues and things.
I've heard about that.
Yeah. John getting the limelight again.
John comes home and says, Tracy, we're having 100 people at our house tonight, and then goes and mows a lawn or something.
And gets filmed doing the barbecue, and John Charles hosting a barbecue, and I'm sat there going, yeah.
I believe it after seeing how hard he worked this week.
Anyway, I was on Facebook today with one of my mates who I'd met on Clipper, and it's a fantastic thing to meet new people that you would never bump into in the street. It's
brilliant.
It's a really great opportunity.
It sounds like it's all positive. I mean, there's obviously
It's
a little bit of hardship, but
There's
a lot of positives.
To cruise around the world is not racing around the world.
No.
You could cruise around the world in this lovely yacht we're on now and have your bikini or your shorts on or whatever.
Yeah.
And
I hope you got your shorts on.
shorts and t-shirt, which is fantastic, but it's totally different to actually doing a race.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's a lot more physical.
Yeah.
But you do, or I certainly got a lot out of it.
No, brilliant.
And from the friends to the skills I've learned. And but we've actually practiced this week on this yacht. It's all to do with that experience with clipping around the world.
Fantastic. So that education, I mean, John's was a diving instructor, and you're not a sailing instructor, are you? But the calmness and the positiveness that we've got out of him this week's been quite. It's been quite nice because Janice is cleaning up the beer I spilled here. Thank you, because they're frozen. Because we're on the last night. We thought we'd get this in before the last night of our return. But so that begs the question, John. John's very interested in buying a catamaran, aren't you, John? And ever since I decided to build one, he's been hurry up and get it finished. I think he's been waiting, but I'm taking a bit too long. So they're sort of very keen. Why would you go from a perfectly good mono to a cat? And I want to hear the real truth.
Because the wife tells me so.
Good enough reason. Good enough reason. Full of shit. Tell me the real reason. You've been bleating on about
Mr. Fairweather Sailor.
Yeah, he's a fair weather sailor now, I have to say.
I've been to both extremes, the North Pacific and the Southern Ocean.
Yeah.
Now I want to stay in the nice warm tropics.
Oh.
Bit of diving.
With the chaise
Lounge.
Yeah.
Barbecue.
Cold beers.
Cold beers. So,
and this bloody lounge room that we've lived in all week's been amazing, isn't it?
So what were the conditions like in the Clipper in comparison to this? Below deck?
Yeah, what's below deck on a Clipper?
Not a lot.
A big sail locker.
Yeah.
A few bunks either side of the engine room.
Yeah.
And a navigation station.
Right.
With a galley for 20 people in the centre. Yeah. Basically.
So I believe
they're stripped down racing yachts.
So you were telling me a story the other day about people sleeping while they're doing a sail change and the sails are coming down onto their bunks and they're getting wet.
That was the old 68s, the training boats.
The new boats.
Now the 70s, they've got their sail locker away from where the crew sleep.
Brilliant.
So it's a lot better, a lot drier boats.
Yeah, okay.
So for me,
But
fantastic.
you can still have women flying across the gangway.
Yes, yeah, I've had women throwing themselves at me in storms.
What happened there? What?
the only way it's
You had a
gonna
woman throwing herself at you. Let's not mention any names.
And she didn't even know what was happening.
I won't name her name.
But she knows who she is.
She knows who she is. We were going up I think it was South China Sea, and we were in a big storm off of the Philippines, or just north of the Philippines towards Taiwan, and we were on a starboard tack, basically, and I was in my bunk with my lead cloth up and my bunk up, and she was across the walkway in her bunk with her bunk up in her lead cloth, and we hit a big wave, and she was in her sleeping bag, and she was thrown over the top of her lead cloth, across the walkway, over the top of my lead cloth, and landed up in my bunk.
That's
quite fortuitous.
That's my story,
just
and I'm
story.
sticking to it.
Gee, lucky guy.
How'd she feel about it? How'd she feel about it?
She didn't know what was going on. She woke up and went, what the hell?
God, I could have picked up
That's hilarious.
It was.
I tried doing it last night to him, but it doesn't work in a cat.
weird.
Yeah, that's the only problem with a cat. You
Yeah.
never get these experiences.
Yeah, that's right. I don't think we've gone from
No
horizontal.
heave doing on those
No,
ones.
there's no heave toing on this boat.
Not the comfort.
Yeah, oh, that's absolutely brilliant. Yeah, so you ended up finishing the leg, obviously, and it was
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ticked off the round the world experience and
Got the certificate.
got the certificate
Yeah.
from Sir Robin Knox Johnson, who's
yeah,
the guy who was the very first person to sail around the world single-handedly, non-stop in 1969.
that was in the Whitbread, wasn't it?
No. This was I forget the name of the newspaper that did it now.
Yeah.
But anyway, he was the first person to sail around, and there's people like that have inspired me
Absolutely.
to
Yeah.
do these kind of things,
Yeah.
and allowed me to give me the opportunity to do it.
Yeah.
And
Sure.
so,
So remember the
fantastic.
film with Colin Firth? He
Yes,
was the
yes,
sailor.
yeah,
Well, that was that race.
Yeah,
Robin Knox
amazing,
Johnson was one
yeah.
who won that race.
yeah, incredible. Oh, that's been very, very interesting. It's been quite an interesting week because these stories have been popping up all week, and it just shows how experienced these guys are when they do these round the world races, and the tolerance of the family member putting up with it, with the dreams, and tolerance of
I'm
the
a
family.
very patient person.
Oh yeah. No, I think
What are you laughing at, Janet?
I think all week John's been itching to come down and learn how to fiberglass so he can build his own boat. And that might be the next dream. Who knows? Life on the hulls too.
It's only if he wants to go and climb Mount Everest will I say to him, go and build a boat.
Yeah. So I think that's a bit off the charts here, mate. I don't think building a boat would be something you
Not
could,
my cup of tea.
No,
Yeah.
he likes to be
I'll sail
clean. He's
I'll
been clean all
sell
week.
them. You can build them.
Yeah, no, I don't know about that. It's been a great week, hasn't it? It's just been a spectacular week.
Been
We've had such a good time. And this 1260 we're on's just been tremendous. And from a positivity point of view, we've done everything slowly, haven't we? We haven't really rushed. We've done some good
That's it.
sailing. We've had some good
You've
sailing.
got to slow everything down.
Yeah.
And
And,
the Whitsundays have been good to us.
yeah. Outstanding location. I don't recommend you come here.
No,
No,
it's
no.
awful.
Don't tell
Terrible.
anyone.
Because about 500 metres from us is about another 36 boats at anchor
It's
here.
terrible.
And,
Don't bother.
yeah, don't come.
The
It's
walks are
it's
awful.
ours.
Smoking's terrible.
Yeah, we're going for a nice bushwalk in the morning before we hand the boat
The
back on
snorkeling's
Friday morning.
really bad.
Yeah, bad
Food's
snorkeling.
awful.
Yeah, it's been a tremendous time. But thanks for that, guys. Thank you very much for that chat. I've really appreciated getting that, and hopefully Clipper gets back going again.
Yes, we hope so. With this COVID
Yeah.
thing, everything's on hold.
Yeah,
The boats are stuck in the Philippines at the moment as we
Yeah.
speak. and yeah, we'll just have to wait and see.
So they called the race off halfway through, didn't they? Or-
Yeah,
Well, they left early. We were up here in January
Yeah.
doing Clipper stuff, and they
Yeah.
waved them off in
Yeah.
19th of January, and then literally within 2 weeks, that was like,
Wow.
oops.
China closed, America closed.
Yeah,
They
incredible.
couldn't go anywhere.
Incredible. And you're now sort of the ambassador for them. You like to talk to people about your experience with Clipper, just to
Yeah.
try to get them to sign up, I guess, or to at least be enlightened as to what the hell.
Only we say, look at the videos.
Yeah.
You know, and we'll tell you our experiences, and then it's up to you. You know,
Yeah, because although accidents happen at sea, it's an incredibly positive experience, isn't it?
absolutely.
Yeah, amazing.
Yeah.
And you find out what you're made of. I mean, I haven't seen much of it this week.
Yeah, lying down.
Yeah, yeah.
Lying down asleep.
It's like horizontal.
Lesson learned from the trip.
Yeah.
Sleep
All
when you
right.
can.
Brilliant, guys. Well, that was a great chat. Hopefully you found it a little bit interesting. I found it very interesting, and it just highlights the need for experience and looking for the positives in everything, because it's it's such an amazing activity to do, isn't it, sailing?
Yes,
And we're going to get back to some passage planning for tomorrow for our sailing. So
yeah, we're going to go from here
Yeah.
to here
yeah.
and here again.
And back, yeah, we're doing like up and down.
Done.
Basically what we've been doing all week.
Big winds, huge winds.
Yeah.
And we're going
Massive
to
wind.
limit the
Yeah.
sail.
Yeah, brilliant. Thanks, guys. We'll see you next time on Life on the Hulls.